far as people being children perpetually, I guess, one of the things, I'll just read this quick quote from Bertrand Russell in The Scientific Outlook. He's talking about education. He distinguishes two types of education for the future. There's education for the working class, and then there's education for the governing class. And under education for the working class, this is what he says. He says, ordinary men and women will be expected to be docile, industrious, punctual, thoughtless, and contented. Of these qualities, probably contentment will be considered the most important. And that really summarizes sort of what we've become. We are very docile.
Yes.
We're very punctual and thoughtless. And contented is enormous if you look at the amount of entertainment that goes into keeping us distracted in our free time between working. It's enormous, the money and the effort that's put into keeping us contented.
Yes. Because
a happy slave is the best kind of slave or something, and you see it constantly with anytime you deal with anybody. You know, what did you do this weekend? Well, I mean, they went home and they played. I mean, that's really all they come back with. They didn't learn anything. They didn't really accomplish anything. They went home and they played. And it's tragic to see. And that's why I find these older books are of value, because when you see that connection between what they're writing in the past, 80 years ago, and what's happening now, when you see that, it helps you undo it in yourself, which is not something that's simple or a quick fix by any stretch, because there's lots of layers. And when you go through an education system like most people have, there's been a lot of damage done. You've been abused, and to undo some of that abuse in yourself takes time, and it takes a lot of patience with yourself.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I would like to get across to people, is that it's not, we're so trained into this instant gratification and this sort of consumer type society where we expect things to just change quickly.
Yeah.
And we don't need that. We need to stop, we need to pause, and we need to reflect on ourselves and some of the things that have been done to us. And that's a path towards improving your own life and indirectly those around you.
That's a very good, overall kind of suggestion. Just because we're constantly looking for, if we talk about improvement, of ourselves or what have you, we're thinking of things, what to add all the time, right? Okay, let me do this instead, or let me add this to my life, or things like of that nature. But what I'm thinking of when you're mentioning that is that we can instead remove things. We can do less. We can actually, as you say, turn off the TV, or we can remove all those other elements from our lives, and when we create that silence, if you will, or that peace around ourselves, we make room for potentially who we really are, and to even stop the thoughts for a little while, just hammering, pounding, and all these false ideas that are kind of projected upon us on who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to act and what have you. It's we're never really kind of getting to the core of who we are, and I think that from my perspective right now, at least, I'm actually very positive overall over the overview of this thing, because I think that there is actually a purpose for the time that we are in, and I think that we will in some way come out of this experience as well as stronger human beings, what have you. It all depends on how long this will go on, I guess, how deep into this scientific, technological, transhumanist system we're going to go. But I think that there is an ultimate awakening at the end of that experience, so to speak. I don't know about you, Brent. What do you think?
I agree with most of what you said. I don't know if I share your optimism. The point about removing things from your life to improve it is an incredibly important point, and has
Yes.
hear their own thoughts, and that is a key point I think I've found in improving myself and just helping myself through all this, through this world in general, is developing that peace within your own life, because everything is sort of arrayed to prevent that.
Indeed, indeed. And I think that with these kind of final little thoughts, that's a good place to begin to round things up for this time. I'd love to have you back on the program again, Brent, and talk more about some of your work. We didn't get to even a third of what we were supposed to do today, but it's all good. We had a very nice discussion. I really appreciate having you on, and there's so much more to talk about. If there's anything you'd like to leave us with, please go ahead, and also, of course, mention your website again so people can find more of your work and your writing.
Sure. It was a pleasure to be on your show, and I would love to come back again.
Great.
As far as my website goes, it's knowledgedrivenrevolution.com. As far as the future goes, the next article I'm publishing is again, it's the final part of the Bertrand Russell series on the scientific outlook, and it looks at a bit of a wider perspective. It looks at actually creating a society as a whole. And he gives two examples of that in his book, where societies were created, and including creating a new religion and a new belief system for an entire country. And that's going to be published probably later today.
Nice.
I missed the good part, then I realized I started looking and the bubble burst. I started looking for excuses. Come on.